Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Podcast. Friday night, under the lights, and a reminder that the Boro are quite all right. A statement victory over Ipswich means Rob Edwards' side bounced back from defeat against Portsmouth, and in some style too. Tom and Matt join me for this one, and we will get straight into it because there's a lot to unpack from that game. An own goal from Cedric Kipre and a first Boro goal for Morgan Whitaker gave Boro a huge 3 points at the Riverside. Guys, what did we make of that game? It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Really, really enjoyable to watch. And especially because we won. I got out of that, and I feel like that's the most good mood that I've left the Riverside in a while. Getting out of the car park, I was like, no, you get out first, and letting people in and stuff. I think a lot of the time, it's just everyone for themselves in the car park and stuff like that. But I was like, no, genuinely in a good mood after that. But great performance. I feel like the reaction to the squad coming out, everyone was just kind of questioning some of the changes made, and some of them were always going to happen. They were enforced. You can't have Aidan Morris playing at 2:00 on Wednesday morning and then coming back and starting on a Friday night. And understandable changes. Obviously, two of the more noteworthy ones were Bergzorg and Whitaker, and they ended up being two of our most important players on the pitch yesterday. It was really nice to see change of system working well. The squad depth, these players coming in and doing well for themselves. But then also the fact that it is a strong Ipswich team, and they probably are in a bit of a false position at the moment. As much as I've read their message boards and everyone's meltdown panic stations at the moment, it sounds very similar to us at certain points over the last couple of years under Carrick, to be fair. A lot of threads about conceding goals coming from left back and stuff. I was like, where have I read that before? But they are probably in a bit of a false position. It's a new team. They're still knitting together, but it's a well-built, expensive team full of quality players, and we took them on yesterday, more than matched them, and came away with a result that we absolutely deserved. When we went 2-0 up, I was kind of looking at it and I was like, I think this is going to be 3 or 4 now. And I was almost disappointed in a way, because I was like, it's been, hard fought up until this point. And I feel like if it's 3 or 4, then it's just the narrative's going to be a Ipswich that bad and stuff like that. But I was like, no, I'd like it to be like a hard fought win. I'd have preferred that we hadn't made it harder for ourselves in conceding. But, with that second, I was like, this is only going one way. And if we had won and got if we had got 3 or 4, I don't think anyone could really argue it. We had our chances in the first half, in particular. We had that 10-minute spell where Alex Palmer was probably earning overtime for his wage, and we did really well. I'd like to see more of that going forward, especially if we stick to that sort of system, because I feel like that sorted out a little bit that we were missing in terms of width. If we, use that at Sheffield Wednesday and do well there, I think it's going to be even more entertaining to watch, because we're defensively solid, but we've got more outlets going forward now.
Yeah, I think it was the most I've enjoyed watching us for a prolonged period within a game. Well, probably for the whole game. There's been spells within games where I've enjoyed what we've done at times, but that seemed like that was the closest we've gotten to the balance being right, I think, from back to front. I still thought we were defensively solid. I think you've got to expect they will still create chances because they've got a ridiculously good squad. So you've got to respect the opposition in that way, but I still thought we were really good defensively, but we definitely were more of a threat going the other way. And that's really good, because we've been saying a lot on the pod, haven't we, that we don't know how good this team's going to be. We know there's lots more to come from Boro. And I think prior to the international break, we were saying we've not peaked yet, and that's the exciting thing. There's more to come from us. And I think we've seen a little bit more last night, a step forward in the right direction. And Rob Edwards deserves credit for that because he switched the setup completely. I don't think anyone saw a 4-2-3-1 coming. I know there were like enforced changes, so it could be one of them where circumstances actually ends up, helping us drop on something really, really good that we might not have. But I still think there was definitely thought behind it, and it seemed to work really well. I really enjoyed watching us, and it's also a big win because the Pompey defeat is now a complete distant memory. Like, we can just completely put that away. I think the worry was that it could unravel into, 4 games without a win, 5 games without a win, back-to-back defeats, and then there's pressure on the upcoming 2 games, which really on paper are probably 2 of the easiest games we've had so far this season. So to just draw a line under Pompey, get back on it, perform really well, and also see improvements from this Boro side, building on what we've already got, it's really good. And we've essentially, jumped 3 points further ahead of Ipswich, which I think is a huge little win in itself, because I still think they'll come good. I still think they'll be up there when they do eventually click. And I think just to have another 3-point gap on a team like that, who will chase us down eventually, I'm sure, or will start to, is massive. So, there was lots of positives last night. And I think overall it was just a really enjoyable game. I've never seen a game be so sort of cagey and then it explode into just madness within a crazy couple of minutes, and it was so much fun. So, to come out on the right side of it's obviously a bonus, but I saw a lot of things last night that I really, really liked from Boro.
I didn't like that game. I absolutely bloody loved it. It was so good from Boro, honestly. It was quite, as you said, cagey. It was a bit of a chess match. That was what they said on Sky. Kind of agree with that, quite even until 34 minutes. And it just suddenly sprung to life, as you mentioned. There were 9 attempts at goal in the space of 3 minutes. Conway had a shot saved by Palmer. Hackney's shot saved by Palmer. Brown had a header block from the resulting corner. Fry directed Whitaker's shot towards goal. That was blocked, ironically, by Tommy Conway, of all people. Brown's shot then saved by Palmer. Schmodix had a header clear just in front of the line by Dale Fry. Bergzorg had a shot saved by Palmer. Strelic had a huge opportunity, probably should have done better with. Everything just seemed to happen in such a condensed period of time. And I'm just thinking, my God, where's this come from? It was brilliant. And I loved how counter-attacky it was. I love counter-attack goals. I love counter-attack moves. And we saw that throughout the entirety of the game on Friday night. Yet another home victory for Middlesbrough, yet to lose at the Riverside this season in the league. Because, yes, the Doncaster game still did happen, as much as we'd want to eradicate that from history. But 4 wins, 1 draw, changes making a positive impact as well. It was everything that you would want after that Portsmouth defeat. It's okay that we lose games. We will do that. It's about how we react to them. And we reacted in quite some style. All of the questions that we were asking about how can Boro become better in terms of chance creation, I think they answered that question on Friday night. We were much better in that regard, owing largely to the way that Ipswich performed. And I'll speak about that in more depth later on. But absolutely brilliant. We will unpack the key moments from the game. And there was one that certainly Ipswich fans will be saying was a big moment 30 minutes in. George Hurst has a shot. Alfie Jones, it hits his arm. Do we think that was handball? Do we think that should have been a penalty against us?
No, absolutely not.
There we have it, folks.
I'll be honest, because I'm that far away down the other end of the stadium when it happened, I didn't know if that was handball or not. I saw all the Ipswich players going over and appealing. And I was like, there must have been something in it. I watched it back when I got back last night, and I was just like, his arm's by his side. He's trying to reposition himself so it hits him in the chest, but his arm's not in an unnatural position. Don't get me wrong, if that had happened against us, I'd be screaming for it and saying, handball penalty and get him off. And
Tom, you'd be on the next podcast absolutely digging into the referee.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I've got a slight dig for him about the penalty, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I looked at that and I was like, his hands by his side. It's not as if he stuck his arm out to try and block it or anything like that. Like I say, I can understand why they'd be appealing for it, but it'd be spectacularly unfair if they got a penalty for that.
It's a great save, to be fair. Great save from Alfie Jones. I agree. I agree with you. I don't really know what he can do in that position. So, yeah, I agree with that. The penalty itself, I'll start with you, Matt, with this one. Did you think it was a penalty, Callum Britton on Leif Davis?
It's one of them where I don't want to say the cliche of I've seen them given, I've seen them not, but it falls into that one a little bit. For what it's worth, I don't think the handball was a penalty either. You don't want to see that given for a penalty when his hands, I think, in a natural position, almost behind his back. But depending on the angle you look at it, some angles it looks like Britton maybe has a tug of his shirt. Then others it looks extremely soft, like Leif Davis has just absolutely made the most of it. I guess it falls under the bracket of maybe Britton's gave the referee a decision to make. He does sort of fall asleep a little bit and is on his heels when Leif Davis does jump round the back of him. So there might be a desperate reaction there. Maybe an arm does come out, but yeah, it's in the middle for me. I think it could be given one way, it could be given another. And as Tom said with the previous one, if it was the other way around, I probably would have been wanting a penalty if it was Boro, but it does fall in the soft category as well. So I think that one falls within a grey area of some way, but because I'm a Boro fan, I'm going to say it's not a penalty because, hey, why not? So, yeah, the referee was given a decision to make by Britton, but it wasn't a clear penalty either. It was a strange one, I would say.
Yeah, he was caught on the wrong side of Davies, wasn't he? And I think as soon as the player goes down, when the defender's the wrong side of them, as you said, it's always given the referee a decision to make. Although watching the replays, I don't know whether it's just the quality of replays, but I'm yet to see like the contact or the definitive reason as to why the penalty was given. I know that Andy Hinchcliffe on commentary yesterday said that Leif Davies goes down a bit too easily. So it's kind of like, okay, was it a tug? Did he clip his leg? I still don't know. And that might not be necessarily because nothing happened. It might just be because I need to go at Boots Opticians and get a new prescription of glasses. But yeah, I don't get it. Tom, you said you have a slight gripe with the referee with that decision. Go ahead.
Yeah, Matt's rubbing his hands together there. I'll be honest, I was just in the flow on that last question. I don't have that much of a gripe with the referee. I do agree with you guys that it was a soft penalty, and my gripe would be more about the standard of officiating in this league, where we've had a clear one against Stoke not given, but then that ends up being given. Like there's a lot of inconsistency about what is a penalty and stuff in this league. But I think, as you say, he gave the referee a decision to make. He was caught on the wrong side of him. There was a slight shirt pull. I think Leif Davis absolutely made the most of whatever small amount of contact there was, and obviously threw himself to the floor. But I think in that position, and as Matt said, if that's the other way around, we're screaming for it. So it's it's easier to take, given what happened afterwards. But if they'd have gone 1-0 up from that, and then I'd seen that back afterwards, I probably would have had more of a rant about it today.
Yeah, when the penalty was given, I was thinking, oh, really? Is this the way that Boro concede? After, honestly, we probably should have put ourselves a goal ahead, certainly with Strelic's chance, which, again, as I said, he probably should have done better with. And I was just thinking, this would be so unfair if this goes in. And it didn't. Saul Brynn did save it. He becomes the first Boro goalkeeper to save a spot kick since, Tom, that Ross Stewart incident against Sunderland in 2023. However, Ross Stewart did tap home the rebound. So we might give it to Jordan Archer. May 2021 against Luton, he saved a penalty there, resulted in no goal. So a little bit of history there for Saul Brynn. Absolutely brilliant. You know what I thought? I never really have a good feeling anyway about a Boro goalkeeper saving a penalty kick. I always assume that they're just not going to get anywhere near it. And there was a slight flicker in my mind if I'm going to see George Hurst running away to the Ipswich fans and celebrating in a second. But then I just was overcome by this confidence in Saul. And it's funny because Rob Edwards was speaking a few weeks ago about how Saul Brynn gives him confidence and he feels safe with him in goal. And I'm starting to agree with that. I really am. And I just had this sudden belief that Saul's going to save this. And when he did, my God, that reaction, by the way, hilarious. Someone's got a bloody World War air siren going off in the South Stand. The South Stand did absolutely everything to put George Hurst off, so fair play to them. A little bit of shithousery there with that siren, whoever had it. But what a moment that was. I was so overcome by emotions. I started flicking the V's at George Hurst. I've got absolutely nothing against him, right? But something came over me where I thought, fucking hell, I love this. That's what football's all about, those moments where you just become engrossed. You feel like you're on the pitch. And that was one of them. We celebrated it as if it was a goal. Absolutely just a fantastic moment from Saul Brynn. Fair play. He's been absolutely fantastic for Boro. No question marks about him being Boro's number one now. And yeah, let's just laud in that penalty kick being saved because it was a great moment, wasn't it?
I think, judging from what the Ipswich fans were saying on their message boards, you wouldn't have been the only person flicking the V's at George Hurst. But
they're not a fan.
Yeah. No, not particularly. I think
I'm not surprised.
He's ironically known as Mr. Bread and Butter over there because he said penalties were his bread and butter, and then he's missed a load of them. But yeah, great moment. You know what it was? Like you said there, you got that bit of belief that he was going to save it. I was waiting for the penalty to be taken, and I was like, I think Saul Brynn's done fantastically this season. I was like, he does give confidence when he's in goal. I'd love to see him continue and be Boro's first choice goalkeeper for quite a while. But I was like, I wouldn't say in any of the matches so far he's had a huge deal to do. Like he hasn't made like 3 saves on the bounce or like made a absolute worldy save that everyone's still talking about. I was like, I think he could just do with like a moment. And all that was going from my head at that time was Ali Brownlee saying, "Get in, you big Aussie," when Schwarzer saved the penalty against City. I was like, I'd love for Saul Brynn to just have a moment like that now. And yeah, happens. And great response from everyone on the pitch. Saul Brynn first, everyone going over to congratulate him. Obviously, the South Stand doing their bits, trying to put George Hurst off. And it did feel from that point on. Obviously, I don't think it was that long till we scored after that, but I think if I'm remembering right, it was like in the next minute afterwards, they kind of took the corner and got cleared out. And Conway put it out for a throw-in, and he was like riling the fans up as well. And I was like, yeah, this is completely turned now. Like, the Ipswich fans are silent, we're loud, the players have clearly got belief. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens. Probably I was thinking straight after half time because we weren't that far away at that point. But I was like, this has turned now.
I think it was the decisive moment in the game. I'm going to be honest. I really do. Firstly, I agree. I'm buzzing for Saul because I think he deserves that moment because I think he's been brilliant this season. And then, by the way, his distribution, I keep forgetting how great his distribution is. And then in the game, he'll ping a ball 70 yards, and I'm like, bloody hell. So he's just been great. In all areas of his game have been fantastic. But I'm buzzing for him that he got that moment. And I mean, it was celebrated, as you said, like a goal. I mean, the Sky Sports camera was shaking. It was like, I can't recall a penalty save ever being celebrated like that. And I think it's because we were knocking on the door before that. And I had the same feeling that I think we had, it might have been during the Stoke game where we had that long spell of pressure. And I thought, we've got to score now. And I think it was at the end of the first half, and we didn't. And that period of domination passed, and you kind of think, Stoke will come back into it, or Ipswich will come back into it, and we all know where this goes. We've missed our opportunity. And it felt like that was happening again. And then when the save was made, it did just feel like it gave the whole stadium, the players, everyone this massive lift. And it gave us this sort of extra push to go up the other end and eventually get the goal. And I don't know how we would have won that game had we gone behind to Ipswich. I think it would have been an immensely different game and a very, very tough game for us. So that moment, I think, flipped the game and just gave us that added bit of energy to go up the other end and get the goal that I think we'd already deserved at that point. But to get it just before half time was just so important for us. And I think it all hinged on that one big moment. So yeah, delighted for Saul. And yeah, games can change on a moment, and that I think was certainly one of them.
I do apologise to George Hurst for me flicking the V's at him. My dad did catch me doing that and said, "You can't do that. You can't be doing that." And I was thinking, what are you, the bloody celebration police? But yeah, absolutely outstanding moment and just so well deserved. Because the thing is, and Tommy, you were mentioning about Saul needing a moment. In fairness, I was doing a bit of reading and research before this game, and we've actually limited teams to the least amount of shots on goal this season prior to the game yesterday. 17 shots on target Saul Brynn has had to face, the lowest in the championship. So you are along on the right lines there in regards to him not having too much to do. He's still being solid. His safety in catching crosses, and again, Matt, you said his distribution, really good. And we came into this season, even though I really enjoyed Saul Brynn's performances when he came in last season before he got that shoulder injury against Sheffield Wednesday, I was happy with that and would have been content with Saul Brynn being between the sticks to start the season, but still wanted that tried and tested goalkeeper that you can hang your hat on. Saul Brynn may not be in the category of tried and tested in the Championship yet, needs to rack up more minutes in this league, but I feel like we can hang our hat on him, and testament to him, really. He's been fantastic. Boro did notch themselves in front, a crazy end to the first half. Bang on 46 minutes, actually, 1 minute added time, so bang on 46 minutes. A rather hilarious own goal from Cedric Kipre, you have to say, just couldn't sort his feet out. But just rewards for Boro. Yeah, did you think that, well, obviously that was not the way that I expected Boro to score the goal, but yeah, do you think it was just rewards for Boro's performance in that first half, you two?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, we should have had a lot of easier goals than that. I will say, I'm not sure how Strelic managed to miss his chance. I think that Conway should have done better with his chance. Maybe just needed a little bit more. Well, both of them need a little bit more composure in the situations they were in. When Bergzorg received the ball in the area, I think it's Leif Davis that's trying to mark him and ends up on the floor and kind of drags Bergzorg down a little bit. I was kind of thinking, he's took it too far wide. If only he'd gone down there, because he probably would have got a penalty for that, given the low bar that was set up the other end. And then he's out wide and he's looking for the ball. I'm just like, please don't hit the wrong ball. Please don't hit the wrong ball. And it looks immediately like he has done. And then I'm not sure how that ends up in the back of the net from Kipre as well. And up until that point, when we were trying to be direct and play balls over the top, I was like, Kipre's having a good game here. Obviously, he's down my end in the first half, and I was like, yeah, he's having a good game. He looks absolutely massive. No one's kind of getting the better of him, like in terms of strength, and then he does that. But it's probably, like I said, we could have made it easier and scored some of the clear cut chances that we had before then. But yeah, it was deserved by the end of the first half, just probably not in the way that any of us thought it was going to happen.
It was funny though, the way that he just made an absolute mess of it. And I was also thinking, Alex Palmer tried to have a Simon Eastwood, just saving every shot that Boro had on goal, and then that's the shot that beats him. It's peak Championship, isn't it? Matt, Rob Edwards did switch things up. He opted for a 4-2-3-1 and he made 4 changes ahead of this game. Brown, Whitaker, Bergzorg and Strelitz came in for Ayling, Morris, Hansen and Sen. What did you make of the team before kick-off versus what you made of it during the game?
Well, I think I was, like a lot of people, very, very surprised and shocked that we'd made that many changes, but the system had changed as well. And you had players like Whitaker and Bergzorg coming in who, have probably been right down the pecking order so far this season and haven't had the best of seasons so far. So it was a bold one. But when I looked at it, I thought if we are going with a 4-2-3-1, who else would we play on either side? Hansen has apparently had a bit of a shoulder injury. Nipan had only just gotten back from internationals. McGree obviously is still getting back up to speed. So I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, yeah, who else could we play in them positions? So I thought, well, I don't know if we're matching Ipswich up, going from a back five to a back four up against them. I was very, very unsure. And I thought this could either go one of two ways. But credit to Rob Edwards and I think he might have alluded to it after the game, they have been looking at over the international break at ways we can be better up the top end of the pitch. And maybe he did, he thought switching it to a 4 at the back and 4-2-3-1 was the way to go. And it is kind of interesting how it's developed, because there were whispers in the summer that was always the plan, to stick with a 4. We tried it in pre-season and then we went back to a 5, which has always been Edwards' sort of, go-to throughout his managerial career. So you felt like it was inevitable. That's just the way we'd go and the way we'd stay. But it shows that he is more than open to changing the tactics if necessary, doing what he needs to do to get the best out of this team. And he is flexible and he is adaptable and he can take a squad and change it to get the best out of it. And I just thought we looked a lot more balanced and comfortable. And I think it maybe did help get the best out of the players we had on the pitch on the night. I loved seeing Strelets deeper. We've been crying out for that for absolutely ages. And although I still would like to see him just more and more involved, because I just really love him as a player. There were times where he would drop deep, link play up, and obviously he played the cross in for the second goal. Could have had a goal himself, played a brilliant ball into Tommy Conway when he should have scored. So we saw some great little moments from Strelets in that hole. And I really enjoyed Conway back up front as sort of the pressing 9. So a lot of the changes made sense once you saw it on the pitch. Obviously beforehand, you're looking at it thinking, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, once again, Edwards has clearly looked at the team, thought of how he can get the best out of the players he has, and it seemed to be a better balanced side last night. So credit to him. It's great to have a manager that is just not tied to the same system, the same way of playing every single week, and can change it up in the way he's doing. It's really good.
Yeah, I just want to shout out Bergzorg, because one of Bergzorg's biggest problems whenever he's had an off game, and we've spoken about it on the podcast, is he takes too many touches. And because he takes too many touches, he often slows the game down. And it becomes a bit too predictable for Boro to attack and easy for the opposition to defend against. But he was so much quicker with the ball and so much quicker at making a decision. And so I really quite liked that in his game yesterday. It's really good to know that if Bergzorg has the space, he's actually a good player. In the build-up to the first goal, you saw him physical against Leif Davis, who's too weak, goes down, obviously not going to get anything for that. He's good at that, I think. He's good at essentially bringing his physical profile into play to good use, and really enjoyed his performance yesterday. Hats off to everyone that came in. Actually, it's good to know that Boro are using their squad, and that the options that may not start games all of the time could come in and make an impact as well. Speaking of a player that may not start every game, because Hayden Hackney and Aidan Morris exist, Alan Brown did come in yesterday and was really quite good, actually. Tom, what were your thoughts on his performance?
I thought him and Hackney were excellent in centre midfield. And it does kind of tie into what you were just saying there. There are players that may not start every game, but it's nice to know that you've got the depth options there to come in and put in the performance that you need. I'd almost liken it to, when we went up, we had Ledbetter and Clayton, but then if either of them were unavailable, you got Forshaw who could step in, and you didn't miss too much, or he added different dimensions to the game when you brought Forshaw into one of them. So I do think Alan Brown offers pretty much the same thing. I think he's a really good player. It's good that he's kind of got the experience as well. What's the word I'm looking for here? But it's quite fitting that he's number 16. I've taken that shirt from Johnny Howson, because we've replaced Johnny Evison with another experienced centre midfielder, maybe 6 or 7 years younger, but he can step into the team and put in a quality performance like he did last night. Hackney got man of the match from Sky, but I was, as I always do, kind of sat in the stand thinking, who would I give man of the match to? Who would be in the praising place? And I think a lot of the team deserve credit, and a lot of team were in that argument for that last night. But Alan Brown would have been kind of towards the top half of that. I just thought he had a really, really good game yesterday.
He's raised our floor, hasn't he? Unlike when Barlaser came in for Hayden and Aiden last season, and this is no disrespect to Dan Barlaser, because it has to be said he's a good player in his own right, but just different profiles. Alan Brown comes in a seasoned championship performer and just is very solid. And I think, as I mentioned, that just raises Boro's floor, whereby the players that come in for those like kind of sure starters, your Haydens and your Aidens, can still perform and keep that standard up. That's a really good hallmark of a very solid championship side at the worst. I just want to mention, kind of add to Boro's midfield chat. I thought we absolutely dominated them in the middle of the park, physically and technically just levels above them. They were so poor, actually, probably as porous as they come. 2 minutes in, Whitaker receives a pass in acres of space because he's dropped into that area between Matasiwa and Cahuste. He gets caught, Whitaker, because he dallies on the ball, and Cahuste, to his credit, does win the ball back. But it was a warning sign of a red flag detail in Ipswich's game that never really went away. I was so disappointed by them in the middle of the park. They had the positional awareness of a flake. It was really quite a notably poor performance from both of them. But Katasiwa, who the hell is that? Cahuste, I just mixed them both together there. Cahuste in particular, 25 minutes, Hackney drives into the box, completely uncontested, just sees the space and goes for it. Me and you, Tom, were probably in a really good position to see that. Just watches him, Cahuste, doesn't even bother to attempt to stop him. 33 minutes in, Kipre plays a ball to Cahuste. This sounds like I'm hating big time on Cahuste. He just wasn't good yesterday, fair to say. He's really laps, flat-footed. Hackney reads it, steals in, starts a counter-attack. That's the chance where Strelic plays in. Conway has his shot saved by Palmer, which basically initiates that crazy 4 minutes of play. Honestly, for a side that had done enough scouting on Hayden Hackney to put a bid in for him in the summer, I could not believe the way that they were just letting him play. Hackney had the most touches in the game, the highest passing accuracy. This is of a Boro persuasion, by the way. The most progressive passes, the most shot-creating actions, the most carries, the most progressive carries. How can you want him enough to put a bid in for him? You do your scouting on him, you do your research, you know he's a good player, but yet you let him dictate the game as much as he did yesterday. It was crazy.
Dana, didn't you and Ben on the opposition preview show say that apparently Kieran McKenna had said there's a plan for Hayden Hackney and we're prepared to kind of nullify him in the game and stuff? It just doesn't seem like that went well.
Yeah, I read that in the build-up, right? And I went back and checked it earlier today. It was from an Ipswich paper, online paper. And the headline was like, Kieran McKenna is devising a plan to stop Hayden Hackney. Then I look back and they seem to have edited it, and there's no quote from Kieran McKenna that says anything like that. So it was really weird, because I was going to come on here and say Kieran McKenna had a plan for Hayden Hackney. Well, it didn't work, did it? So I had to change my notes. But yeah, it was surely, anyway, they would have had a plan to stop Hayden Hackney, but that was not the plan. You just gave him the ball. You let one of the division's best ball carriers carry the ball, progress the play up the pitch. It was really strange from Ipswich. But Boro as a whole, they were just so much quicker and effective in building attacks. Okay, we might not have planted the last kind of scrape of quality to score the goal before we actually did. We had chances, we didn't convert them. Of course, Strelic probably the biggest example of that. But it was because we had the space to build up those attacks, and we just took advantage of that. I thought Ipswich started the second half with a little bit more positional discipline before we scored our second. Cahuste and Matasiwa were closer to each other, but Boro instead hit the space behind Leif Davis, who made a critical error really in the build-up to that second goal. He stepped up, he enabled Whitaker to find a bit of space and a bit of room to feed in Strelic, who put a really dangerous ball into the box before Whitaker scored. And we will speak about Whitaker now, actually, Matt, because goal scorer, match winner, 1,561 minutes into his time at the club. And finally, he has his first goal for Boro. Great moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the moment we've been waiting for from him. I think we were getting to a point where it needs to go in off his backside, his shoulder, anything. Just get the guy a goal. And I think we were also getting to the point to which I think fans had almost just given up hope on Morgan Whitaker. I always thought, yeah, last season, first 6 months, it's tough. No one was really playing all that well from the back end of last season. But this was a new start for him with a new manager and an opportunity to really sort of announce himself at Boro. And it's just not happened so far. And you see other players coming in, you think he's dropping further down the pecking order. And it felt like he was just falling deeper and deeper into a hole, really. And obviously there was the issues at Preston and all that. And it was getting to the points which I honestly thought there's no return here. Like, I just can't see where this is going to turn around for him. And even in this game, leading up to it, I'm not going to let his goal blind his first half performance, because I don't think he was very good in the first half, and it was more of the same, really. So I was just waiting for, right, he's going to get subbed off, and it's going to be just another sort of anonymous display from Whitaker. But then that moment, I hope and pray, is the moment that ignites his Boro career. And I don't see why it shouldn't. And he deserves credit because he actually started the move, as you say. He played in Strelets, followed the ball in the box, was in the right place, could have still put his foot through it, skied it, but he placed it really, really well. But the best thing for me was the celebrations. I mean, Tommy Conway is like a human emoji. His celebrations, along with, I've never seen someone happier to see their teammates score than Tommy Conway with Morgan Whitaker. And Whitaker's reaction, the whole team reaction, I loved it. It just shows you the togetherness and how happy they all were to see him get a goal. And we only judge a player on what we see on the pitch. And I think a lot of fans rightfully judge Morgan Whitaker and have judged him, I think, fairly. Some haven't, some have. But we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't know how he might struggle with it day to day, the personal side of it. So I'm sure there's a lot more to his struggles at Boro. And I think we all just need to hope that this is the start for him now and just be happy that he is off the mark. And I do think after he scored, he did look a better player. He looked more confident. I think he carried it down the right and whizzed a ball across the face of goal. I don't know if it was that close to the far corner in the end, because I was obviously sat in the north stand, but he looked a different player after he scored. And I just hope he can carry that on now and, really, really get his Boro career going. So it's a great moment. It's well overdue, of course, but we can only hope this is now the start for Morgan Whitaker and we can finally start to see the best of him.
Can confirm, Matt, on that shot that went past the far post, it was further away than it looked. I thought it was close from sitting in the North East corner. And then I watched it back earlier. I was like, yeah, it's actually not that close. But,
I was very surprised by that when I watched the replay, because I agree, it looked like it just whizzed past the post, but it didn't. I will say as well, actually, because this just came to mind when I was watching the replay, that pinball in the first half. Whitaker had that shot that Dale Fry deflected on goal. There's an angle from behind the camera, and it looks eerily similar to that Forshaw goal against Reading. It just needed somebody to hit the stanchion. But the Whitaker shot was the Clayton shot. The Dale Fry obviously wasn't exactly the same, but it was like Albert Adoma getting almost decapitated by that Clayton shot. And then the Brown shot at goal that was saved by Palmer was like the Forshaw one. So obviously Forshaw scored, Brown didn't. But I was getting like parallels. I was getting like flashbacks to that goal. Anyway, back to Morgan Whitaker. Excellent for him because he is a confidence player. I was speaking to Sam from Argyle Life, actually planning an article about Whitaker that I've had to basically rewrite because of that goal. Great for him, not great for my article. But he just said that he is a confidence player. He needs an arm around him. He needs belief in him. And I think we see that because his performance after he scored was better. Before that, I agree, Matt. I wasn't a fan of the performance before he scored. But he's just needed that goal. He's just needed that weight off his shoulder. And hopefully this is him arriving at Middlesbrough now. We've seen this goal. Let's see him kick on. Absolutely brilliant moment for him. And it's needed. I doubt that there was anyone in the Riverside yesterday that wasn't buzzing for him, to be honest. This is what we've wanted from Whitaker. We've wanted this first goal, as I said, 1,561 minutes in a Boro shirt before he scores his first goal. Huge pressure off himself, and hopefully he can kick on from here. Massive, massive credit to him. Tom, just to finish off the discussion about the game on Friday night against Ipswich, how big of a performance and a result was that for Middlesbrough?
I thought it was a really, really big performance, especially after the last 3 games that we've had. Like we talked about on the last pod, we were looking leggy, and the international break came at a good time. We hadn't kind of fully clicked up front. I still don't think we have, but we were looking better last night. But I think also in terms of team spirit and togetherness, last night was massive, and it showed at different parts of the game, whether that was, the celebrations after the penalty save, everyone wanting to go to celebrate with Whitaker as soon as he scored, but also bits like, we had a bit in the second half, where we essentially made 3 blocks like within about 10 seconds in the box. And, Alfie Jones looked like he may as well have been getting unleashing his inner Canadian with his, international cap looming from, the absolute ice hockey block that he made on the floor at one point. But everyone throwing themselves in front of shots, and defensively, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see your team open and, getting cut through time and time again. You want to see them keeping shots out, keeping them to a minimum, and when they are coming in, they're maybe not in the best places. They're all on the edge of the box, and then just people throwing themselves in front of it to stop it going in, and a strong goalkeeper for anything that does get through. For me, defense was massive. The midfield had an absolutely quality game, and then going forward, I thought we were great yesterday as well. So to do that against a team the caliber of Ipswich as well in this league, I think it does kind of put a marker down. And we've reached the 10-game mark now, and we've only lost 1, and we have beaten some good names in that run. So we've kicked off this next spell after the international break well. 7 games to go until the next one, I think it is now. Keep the positivity going. If we can come out with this next week, having beaten Sheffield and Wrexham as well, we will be. I'm sure everyone's going to be extremely optimistic about what's to come.
We will keep the positivity coming then. So let's head to what will be an undoubtedly packed praise and place. Yes, the praise and place is where we dish out praise to whatever and whoever we want. We'll kick things off then. Matt, do you want to tell us what gets in your praise and place, or who gets in your praise and place this week?
Well, who doesn't get in my praise and place this week should be the question. There's so many, and it's always great when you've got the pick of a full team. I mean, I want to start with the Teesside spine. And I saw this getting shared this morning, and it was extremely satisfying to see, Brynn, Fry, Hackney, born and bred through the middle. All of them were outstanding. I mean, Saul Brynn naturally goes in there for the penalty save. As I said, that was a huge moment. Dale Fry for the goal line clearance, as well as just being an absolute man mountain at the back, heading, clearing, everything. I mean, second half, as Tom alluded to, absolutely throwing himself at everything. Wasn't bothered which body part it was that got in the way of the shot, doing everything to keep the ball out. And then Hayden Hackney as well. I mean, it's like at the end of a game show when you lose, you're like, this is what you could have won. And that's what it was like with Ipswich. It's like, this is what you could have won, but you didn't. And just really great to see Hayden Hackney showing up against Ipswich. There was a funny tweet going around last night of an Ipswich fan who said, he can't wait for, I don't know, ex-Ipswich player to make Hackney his bitch. And that is it's like milk, which is hilarious because Hackney got player of the match. But Hackney was immense. I mean, they allowed him, as you say, the time and space to do his thing, which is, bad on them. But Hackney was still, back to his best. And it's really good to see that because he was starting to drop off a little bit, maybe get a little leggy like a lot of the team was into the back of the last international break, but he was back to his best. And then there's plenty of players around him you could list. I mean, Alan Brown, yeah, I know he's a good player, But I was surprised by how good he was last night. I thought there's no drop off in quality from Aidan Morris at all here. He was just as good, better than what we've seen Morris be in recent weeks, if anything. So there's a headache for Rob Edwards going into the next couple of games. Does he start Alan Brown over Aidan Morris? It's a worthy question. And then, yeah, I think Bergzorg and maybe even Whitaker could be in there as well, because I didn't expect either of them to be in the team. I was a bit skeptical of them both in the team, and they both ended up being decisive in our wins. So I could go through the whole team, coaching staff, the South Stand for the penalty save, anyone and everyone. Yeah, it's a packed one this week.
I'm going to limit myself to 3 like I normally do, but I'm going to go with Saul Brynn, obviously for the penalty save. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm glad that he got that sort of moment that people will still talk about in the future. People will remember that one. And then I'm going to put Bergzorg and Whitaker in there, because I thought Whitaker, great that he got his first goal. As we were saying earlier about him being a confidence player, first half, he was trying a lot of stuff that just wasn't coming off. And I think a lot of players, they could have just, the head could have gone down after that. It could have been a lot more difficult for them in the second half, but then he gets the goal. And then, as we said earlier, that seemed to be a weight off his shoulders. And then he's looking to get forward and get a shot off. He got that one that was, well, I'm not going to say just wide of the post, but nearly wide of the post. It was nice to see him afterwards. He's got the confidence to run in and try those things. I'm like, if he's got that now, carry on. I hope he gets a start on Wednesday, because who's to say he couldn't do the same thing again. But yeah, he deserves praise this week. And then Bergzorg, again, I don't know who the Ipswich right back was yesterday, but
Furlong.
Yeah, him and Kipper are the West Brom defence, and for Ipswich now. But the first half, I thought Bergzorg, he just got the better of him every time. I was saying to my dad, I was like, there might have been some people who were unsure on Bergzorg starting in that game, but I think he could be one of the key outlets in that game, because he's getting the ball, but he's holding it up really well against Furlong, and he's getting the better of him every time. So maybe he could be the one to do something. But then, as has been alluded to before, he wasn't holding the ball as long. The shot before Strelic's chance, where he just hits it first time, 10 games ago, he'd have probably ball rolled that about 4 times, and the whole Ipswich team would have got back and would have given the ball away from there. But the fact that he just ran onto that, he hit it first time, wasn't necessarily the best shot, but it didn't have to be. It was low. It was awkward enough that Palmer would have to palm it away, and then it ultimately sets up Strelic to miss. Unfortunately, he should have done better with it. But just in situations like that, nice to see him keeping that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. You can create stuff just by doing that. But overall, I thought his whole performance yesterday was really good and deserving of praise, especially after essentially from the call, because he hasn't started in a while. I don't know if he's been on the pitch in a while, but I thought he did really well and made the most of his start.
I'm going to praise the moments from Dale Fry, where he blocked 3 shots in the space of about 5 seconds. One from Azon, the next one from Clark, the third one from Furlong, where he's kind of mid-fall almost. It kind of hits him on the side. It's just a brilliant moment that epitomises Middlesbrough, actually. Okay, we may concede possession in spaces in and around the box, but make sure that you defend the box with everything that you have. And that was just the poster example of Middlesbrough under Rob Edwards. Brilliant from Dale Fry, who is a fantastic defender, and sometimes I kind of am a little bit pour cold water on Dale Fry, but then he just heats up again and he has that type of performance that he did yesterday and he's excellent. And I also do want to praise it. I've been wanting to praise this for a decent amount of time, but I'll use today's podcast to do it. But I just think Boro do night games really well, like really well. Some fans may say, oh, it's so tin pot, this light display. I like it. I'm not going to lie. I like it. I like the fire coming out before kickoff. I like the kind of pre-match music, getting everyone up for the game, or trying to at least get me up for the game. I think props to John Foster on the mic. Props to everyone behind the scenes that makes Riverside night games so good. They're special in their own right, but I think they've just been etched up. And I also want to praise the siege mentality. Rob Edwards' Luton side had that siege mentality, and I'm starting to feel like we're getting it as well, where everyone is involved. You've got the fans geeing on the players. You've got the players geeing on the fans. It's very together at the moment. Of course, it would be. We're winning games. We've only lost one this season in 10 matches. But that siege mentality can take you really far. And that, coupled with a side that are defensively resolute, is a very good recipe indeed. Right. If you want to put in who gets in your praise and place in the comments, please do that, and make sure to like this episode if you're enjoying it so far. We are going to move on now to podcast questions. Yes, it is podcast questions. You know where to find us. Danny Beamore asks us the first question this week. He says, do you think we look better in that back four setup? I thought that attack looked more balanced with Conway up top and Strelitz behind. Morgan Whitaker and Delano Bergzog also suited it much better. Matt, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've got to agree. I agree with the word balanced. I certainly think that's the case. There still might be times where I think we might warrant a back five, and I do like having that option even at the back end of games to solidify things up to help us manage a victory like we did last night anyway. But I certainly think there were players in there that it got the better out of. We mentioned Bergzog and Whitaker. I think it was a good decision to put Strelitz behind Conway, as I mentioned. So yeah, I'd be keen to roll with that and see how it goes for a couple of games. I think we've been talking, haven't we, about having a consistent front line and trying to find that consistent front line, giving them the opportunity to gel and build partnerships and relationships and consistency and continuity as well. So hopefully we do now persist with this and see how far it takes us. You know, drops in form will warrant changes, but we've got Nipan and McGree and Hansen and other players who can still come in, which is a great problem to have. And I think especially with Conway and Strelitz, if we can get them two playing really well in the same team, then I think that'll be a big boost for us as well. So yeah, all the signs I thought were awesome. And I think as well, I don't know if they still are, they might not be after this weekend, but Sheffield and Wrexham, I think, have the two highest XG against in the Championship. They give up the most chances. So what a great opportunity is for this new formed attack to go into the next two games and hopefully fill their boots. So yeah, I liked it, and I'd definitely persist with it for the next few games.
Brilliant stuff. Next question is from Leon. He says, has Rob Edwards finally figured out how to play Strelitz and Conway together? Tom, I'll get your brief thoughts as well. But I think for me, I've seen a bit of criticism towards Strelitz for his performance yesterday, but I actually thought he was better. I thought he was better in that deeper role just behind Tommy Conway. And Conway is always energetic. He always gives absolutely everything. And he's always, I think, more times than not anyway, effective. Particularly out of possession, in possession as well, he does his bit. But I'd quite like that setup. I really wanted to see Strelitz deeper. He might not be involved a lot. He might not take a lot of touches of the ball, but you can tell he's just got that quality. I was expecting him to shoot when he had that chance before he played Conway through. I thought, right, take it on your right foot. I know he's left-footed, but I thought, take it on your right foot, have a strike at goal. He didn't. He played in a lovely weighted ball to Conway, had that shot that Palmer saved. And then the build-up to the second goal as well, he played that dangerous crossing. You could just see it every now and again, just slight moments of quality from Strelitz. It would, of course, be brilliant if he took more touches and had more moments like that as a result. But I thought he was better. Rob Edwards said afterwards that he was playing in that sort of 9.5 role, the tuba role. And I think that's perfect for him. I really do. So I reckon we've found that good blend there. I'd quite like to see that continue. Would you, Tom?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see it again on Wednesday night, to be honest. I did think he played well yesterday, and that before he played in Conway for that chance, the position he picks it up in, I'm just like, go on, recreate your goal against Germany. I bet you don't. Go on, do it. And then he played the ball, which, to be fair, great vision from him to do it. And also, even though he was playing deeper, I'm going to say this again, he should have scored in that chance that he had after on the rebound from Bergzog's shot. So I think it was an effective position for him to be played in. I'd like to see more of a partnership develop between him and Conway. Hopefully they get the game time they need and they can do that.
Right, let's move on. And before we end this podcast, there was big news this week. Boro revealed their brand new badge for next season. It will be implemented from next season onwards, with a special gold anniversary version to be used in the first year to mark 150 years of Middlesbrough Football Club. The main points of the badge: it is a return to the circular shape. The club's founding year, 1876, is split across a white band. Middlesbrough Football Club is arced within the shaping of the badge, the font of which is a nod to Middlesbrough's industrial heritage. For example, the letter I resembles an iron girder, which I think is pretty cool. The iconic lion is featured in the centre of the badge, of course. Designers have incorporated the shape of the River Tees as it meets the Riverside Stadium in the lion's tongue, and the outline of rosary topping within the lion's mane. Guys, what do we make of the new badge? Big news, new era for Middlesbrough, back to a circular badge. Are we happy with it?
Matt, do you want to go first? I know you're the big designer here, so.
Well, I was going to say it's nice that they've took inspiration from the new Boro Breakdown logo that we have went with this season. No, obviously I'm just down to the profession I'm in. Look at these things with a super critical, probably, stupidly fussy eye. But I've grown to really love this badge. I really have. At first, because I didn't expect it to be dropped, I kind of looked at it and I thought, oh, is that it? Or is that like this is where we're up to? Or this is like a first version? At first I was like, is that the final version, really? But the more I've looked at it, the more I've really, really warmed to it. I mean, first of all, how great is it just for Boro to go back to a circular badge? It just feels right. I know it makes me feel old. God knows how old it makes Tom feel, but there are fans that have only known the current badge, and I feel kind of sorry for them, because the current badge for me just reminds me of Championship football and, well, mostly rubbish. So to go back to this just feels right. It reminds me of the great days of cup finals and Premier League football and European football. So that in itself is great. But yeah, I love what they've done with the lion. That's my favorite part of the Boro badge. I love the little bits of Teesside they've incorporated into it, because in the meetings that we had last year, there was loads of people who wanted like the transporter in there, boats in there, and all these other different elements, but that was never going to work. So I think trying to actually incorporate them into the line itself is really clever. So I love that. I don't mind the band either, going across middle of the badge horizontally. Nice touch. I think that works for me. I don't mind that. And the only thing I had an issue with at first was the font. I didn't like the font that went around Middlesbrough Football Club. I thought I'd liked a more modern font, but I've warmed to it, to be honest. And I think the whole badge as a whole looks nice. And that's not even before we mention the 150th anniversary badge, which I think is stunning. And that on a red shirt next season, God. And if the shirt next season's red and gold as well, that's going to sell out like crazy. I can't wait to see that. So yeah, I think it's simplistic. I don't mind them doing that, because I think that you got more chance of keeping people happy if it's simple. They've not tried to overcomplicate it, and they have gave fans everything they wanted based off of the meetings and the feedback that happened last season. So they've hit the brief, and I like it, and it feels right. So yeah, it's a big tick for me. I really like it.
They absolutely have hit the brief, haven't they? You reminded me there, Matt, that I'm actually one of those fans that's only ever known the current badge, which is a shame actually, because I really don't like the current badge. There's just so many parts of it that aesthetically do not please my 4 eyes. But yeah, this one, I really like it. I'm like you, when I saw it, and by the way, the video that they put out to announce it on a random Thursday, as we said, was fantastic. A really, really good video to announce the new badge. I saw it, and with all due respect, because obviously this is the instant reaction, I was like you, I thought, is that it? But then you factor in that, people have taken a lot of time and put a lot of effort into this. And credit to the designer, Andy, and the illustrator, Joe, as well. They've done a fantastic job with it, because this is harping back to the iconic badge from 1986 to 2007, which is synonymous with Boris halcyon days, really, of UEFA Cup journeys and Carling Cup success. And it's just a really good badge, that one. And this is just a modernized, updated version of it. I really like the font. I think it's striking. It stands out much better than the badge I've just mentioned there, actually. Love the little hat tilts to Teesside landmarks. Although I will say, and this is rather geographically pedantic, Rosebery Topping is not in Middlesbrough. It's in East Cleveland. It's in Great Ayton. So I don't know if Middlesbrough can claim Rosebery Topping, although people have mentioned you can actually see Rosebery Topping from like a view from the Riverside Stadium. So I suppose it's donned the iconic Teesside skyline. People have mentioned it needs the transport bridge in it. If the transporter bridge sees 2030, I'd be very surprised. It's structurally damaged. Things closed half the time. There's no point putting that on a badge. There's just no point. So I like the fact that they've cut the Rosebery Topping shape, or the top of it, into the lion. The river tees as well, coming from the lion's tongue. That is distinguishably Middlesbrough, of course. It's just a really good design. Like, as you said, they've hit the brief. They've ticked a lot of boxes that Boro fans wanted. A lot of neutrals are saying, modernised crap, another circular design. But this is celebrating history. This is not eradicating it. It's celebrating it. It's it's joining hands, if you will, with the 1986 badge that's iconic within itself, because it celebrated the kind of rebirth of Middlesbrough Football Club from the doldrums of 1986 and liquidation. So I really like it. I'm excited to see it, because I'm a nerd, on the Boro shirt next season. Hats off to Andy and Joe. Andy, a graphic designer that's a Middlesbrough fan as well. I can imagine for him that must be just the best job ever. And to be fair, he said that's a dream job. So yeah, hats off to them. Absolutely brilliant. Tom, what are your thoughts on the new badge? You were obviously a part of the MSF meetings as well. What are your opinions?
I really like it. I think I'll look at it completely different way to what Matt would, in that, I don't look at all the little details and the design or anything like that. I find the Rosebery Topping and the river tees thing like quite abstract. Like, I'd have to like really look at it to notice that that's there. I just look at it for what it is, and I love it. I think it's a really clean design. The lion for me looks better. People, posted screenshots of the old badge on Twitter, and I never noticed the fact that the line didn't actually fit into the middle, and it actually like impinged on the sides, the outside of the crest as well. So I really like that it's all in one place now. I do like the white band with 1876 on it, and then the font. I know it's probably not the same font. It looks really similar to what was on the previous badge, and that for me, it takes me back to the badge I grew up with before this cursed badge came into play. So I really like it. I can't wait to see it on a shirt. I'm really looking forward to the anniversary one where it's red and gold. If Boro are planning that now, just take my money. I'll have 10 of them.
Yeah, and interestingly as well, they've got the Ayrton Park gate, little swirl of the Ayrton Park gates underneath the anniversary badge. Looks really good. And a lot of people, the criticisms that I've seen from people are to do with the lion. I think they've got the lion spot on. I can't see a fault with it, really. The other one, as I think you mentioned, Tom, that it was brought up, that it looks like there's a fleck coming off the lion. It makes him look like he has a massive dong, which is one of the things that I think when you look at it, you maybe can't unsee it. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it was actually brought up on a thread on Fly Me to the Moon. Rob mentioned this, and I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, it's it is funny. I mean, I've never really been a fan of the current badge. It's kind of needed a bit of just reworking, and I think they've done this absolutely brilliantly. Nothing else to really mention. It's just good. It's I know I mentioned there that when I first saw it, I was kind of like, is that it? But to be honest, I was expecting to hate it. If I'm being completely transparent about it, I thought that I'd absolutely hate it because I'm just a Morning Myrtle. Although it seems like Morning Myrtle's been extracted from my being, and I'm actually really enjoying what Boro are putting out and what Boro are doing. And this is another example of it. Really good. In the comments, let us know what you think of the new Boro badge as well. It's been just really good to be introduced to it. The new wave for Middlesbrough Football Club. Hopefully it signals better fortunes for the club that we love. Right, then that wraps us up for this episode. If you have enjoyed it, please give the video a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast apps, please give us a 5-star rating. Shot a comment in on Spotify as well. It's been brilliant to see those coming through. If you do enjoy this podcast and the content that we put out, there is a link in our bio if you want to donate to our Buy Me a Coffee or Buys the Chips and Curry, as we call it. A one-off donation or a monthly one is massively appreciated from all of us. We will be back on Monday, actually, to preview the Sheffield Wednesday game. But until then, take care and up the Boro Breakdown.